Hello everyone and welcome back to Star Technology. So, in between episodes, we ended up doing a bit of a power upgrade like I kept saying we would. We had 7 coils to start with last time, with 1 steam engine, but now we have 3 engines turning 18 generator coils. You could switch to some other form of energy around this time reasonably, but my goal is to make this last until after we get the clean room next episode so we can upgrade straight into the best mid-game power source in this update, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Last episode we got quite a bit done and ended up getting through LV even faster than we got through ULV, but the momentum might slow up today as there's quite a bit we have to do in medium voltage here. We had already gotten ourselves the centrifuge and electrolyzer last time, so we're going to pick up from there. To reiterate what was said last episode, the reason to start with these instead of the oh-so-tempting MV assembler is to make aluminum and other materials a lot easier on ourselves for the rest of these machines. On top of electrolyzing gem dust like ruby, topaz, and emerald, these machines allow us to process the slurry we've been getting from our void extractors since last episode. The main goal here is to set up AE2 and get the new base started, and this is the first step towards getting that done today. Scarlet already got us an assembler and mixer crafted, so from here there isn't a super particular order that I'm going for with these machines, but I would like to upgrade the energy hatches on our EBFs as a matter of priority. The first step to getting that done is going to be a sifter, so we can sift gem ores for exquisite gems to make laser engraver lenses out of them. We'll only need the sapphire lens to make MV energy hatches, but we might as well make the ruby and emerald lenses while we're at it. To save time, I'll be doing as many steps as I can by hand here. But once we have our exquisite gems, we can just pop them in a lathe to make lenses out of them. You'll also notice me checking these machines and barrels pretty often to make sure things are running, and that's because I would rather run around like a schizophrenic inventor instead of putting effort into making temporary setups. You have to keep in mind that everything early on will eventually get replaced, so it's not super worth it all the time to invest a whole lot of effort into setups that will get fully replaced later on. So now that we have some more machines up and running, including those laser engravers, I bought myself some jet boots from the shop in Questbook. The only thing you need to unlock them is to craft the MV assembler, so definitely get yourself some flight after you make that. If you're wondering how to charge these, you can use any GregTech machine or a turbocharger, but here in the early game they're way too slow for my preferences, so I recommend using the Tinker's Workbench from the Thermal Series mod to charge these. The most expensive part of these is the flux coil, which only costs a couple gold, so they aren't that bad to make at all. You can really hook it up to anything that outputs RF, but I'm just going to use one of these flux cells up here connected to our generator coils to get the job done. At base value, the workbench isn't much faster than a turbocharger, but we can make it even faster by putting any of the thermal upgrade kits in them. We already have an RF kit in our storage, so I'm just going to use that and call it good, but you can mess around with these kits yourself to see what stats you prefer on them. And I get it, you're probably wondering how you just wirelessly charge these because putting them in a charger is annoying, but for now we're just gonna have to deal with this because the only wireless charging in this pack is Flux Networks, and that isn't unlocked until after we get HV energy hatches and large chemical reactors, so not for a bit. With that out of the way now, it's time to upgrade those energy hatches and then get some Contthal smelted for better coils, because these copper nickel coils don't have a high enough heat capacity to cook silicone for AE2 parts. You may notice a problem with Contthal ingots when they come out of the furnace, being that they're hot and unusable in their current state. Later on, we'll be able to use a vacuum freezer to cool ingots, but since we don't have HV circuits yet, we'll have to fix this problem with chemical baths for the time being. To transfer our hot ingots from the furnaces to our chem baths, we just use LaserIO with a tag filter with this tag and round robin turned on. For anyone wondering how to use LaserIO for themselves, I'll drop a link to the mod spotlight video in the description. Really, if you haven't learned it, you probably should, so check that video out, but by now you've probably realized that making these Contthal coils is going to take quite a bit because we need a total of 336 Contthal ingots to make the wires required for all 42 coils on these. Since we have some time to kill while all that smelts, the next item on our agenda is making 4 more rock filtrators to sift geodes out of sand. This recipe requires MV energy hatches, but since it's only 1 amp of consumption, we can share the hatches between 2 filtrators. We also need distilled water to run this recipe, so I'm going to set up a few MV distilleries to take care of that. Before I make those, I'm going to have to do a bit more routine machine checking real quick, just to keep those coils coming, but after some more running around in circles for materials, I got those distilleries made. And now that the machines are placed down, we just need to get these hooked up to power, which is unfortunately going to require even more running around for the parts to make that energy converter. All the handcrafting is getting old, but after this is set up, we'll have access to Certus quartz, which is about the last basic material we'll need to set up AE2, and auto crafting along with it, so hope is on the horizon thankfully. I'm going to make myself a light so I can see down here, but I have everything I need to get these machines powered now. After we get these wires connected, we're going to use LaserIO to move the items and fluids in and out of the hatches here. At this point, our base is starting to turn into a big bowl of laser spaghetti, but with how much logistics is involved in GregTech, it was bound to become some form of spaghetti eventually. Things will definitely look a lot cleaner when we get the fancy new base built, so I'll have to be content with the pasta for the time being. Italian dishes aside though, it's time to usher these llamas off the base and move on to the next order of business. Scarlet set up large stone barrels to get lava production underway while we were getting the filtrators built, so that's off the checklist now too. We're aware that we could have made a big lava pit with a create pump, but I'm just not a fan of that method because it feels cheesy. You can look up a video on Create Infinite Lava if you're really interested in that method, though keep in mind that if you're on a future update, the create method will most likely be removed since the lead developer seems to share my sentiments on the issue. Sorry, not sorry to those of you who enjoyed the method. So up next is polyethylene automation, and there will be various uses for this, but my main reason right now is for SMDs to make HV circuits so we can get the multi-smelters. And I need those multi-smelters to make faster AE2 parts, so you can see where that's going. This might be painful for those of you that are new and haven't done chemical lines before, but I'll walk you through what I did to get this passive. Polyethylene isn't really that bad at all. It's pretty much just 2 smaller lines for ethanol and sulfuric acid that come together with oxygen to form our polymer. The ethanol part starts with a large farm multi-block producing either carrots or potatoes. You could use other crops for this, but dealing with the excess seeds is kind of annoying, so I don't recommend them. The next step is compressing the crops into plant balls and macerating that into biochaff. From here we just need to cook it on circuit 1 with water in a pyrolyse oven for biomass, which we can finally distill on circuit 1 for our ethanol. The additional wood pulp from this can be trashed or stored in a drawer with excess voiding turned on, but that wraps up the first half of this line. The second part of this line, sulfuric acid, is just as easy as the first, and it only requires water, oxygen, and sulfur in a couple chemical reactors. Our oxygen for this is just coming from air centrifuging, and the sulfur is being packed down from the small dust our sieving setup is producing. First, we react the sulfur and oxygen here for the sulfur dioxide, which we react with oxygen again for sulfur trioxide, which then reacts in the next chemical reactor for our acid. Finally, to get these ingredients turned into a polymer, we have one last small chain of reactors to deal with. The first of these two will react the ethanol with our sulfuric acid for ethylene and diluted sulfuric acid, which isn't really worth the effort to distill back into usable acid with our current resources, so we can just trash it. And now for our final product, we just react the oxygen with the ethylene in our last reactor for liquid polyethylene that we can use as we please. I'm going to rotate this muffler real quick because the particles are annoying me, but first order of business for us now that we have polyethylene is crafting super tanks so we can get a larger buffer on our sulfuric acid and PE here. And there's only one thing left on our agenda before we get AE2 and the new base underway, and that's the multi-smelters here. These have two different modes, one for alloy smelting and one for vanilla furnace recipes, but the reason they're so useful here is because they'll do multiple recipes at once depending on the quality of coils that they have on them. There isn't really much to them other than that, just don't forget the muffler when you build them because I think it is missing in the EMI diagram. With these completed and ready to use though, we're pretty much done with all the infrastructure I wanted to have set up before moving on. So I'll be back to wrap things up after Scarlett and I get some building done for the first floor. So after some elaborate concept art by yours truly, and careful block selection by our good friend Scarlett, I am proud to present to you the very start of our lovely mega base. It's a bit lacking on the mega side of things for right now, admittedly, but rest assured we'll fix that as the series progresses. It's going to take a bit to integrate everything over into the new base and AE2, but this first floor will serve as a central AE2 hub with some Cube.js machines for auto crafting, maybe some other things. So far, all we've done in here is set up the terminals and drives, along with enough wireless connector spam to last us through the rest of the pack. The spots here are for the crafting CPUs, and we left room on the second layer of this floor for auto crafting machines and a crafting matrix in the center here. I can probably also fit some large chemical reactors along the top edges of this room, but we'll have to see how things turn out. This right now is still pretty skeletal compared to what it will look like by the next tier of progress, but I'm honestly really happy with how this project has started. I have to give credit to Scarlett for most of the starting design here, especially the block choice. I'll definitely be more involved in the fine details in the future, but this is going well so far in my opinion. This was the milestone I wanted to hit this video though, so this is where I say goodbye for today. Thanks for watching the whole video to the end, and as always, I hope to see you on the next one. Ciao!